here today with Commissioner Bill Bathurst, who is running for re-election for seat 2. This is going to be the third installment of our interviews, live interviews with the candidates. So we're excited that you're joining us this morning here at lovely Cranes Beach House. Sort of lovely.
Lovely.
The weather, anyhow.
I love the weather.
Yeah, it's a great day in Delray Beach. So first of all, Bill, thanks for coming in this morning. We're excited
Greg,
to have
thank you so much.
Before we get to the questions, why don't you give our viewers just a little bit of a feedback, a little bit about who you are, what you're about, and what you'd like to say.
All right, I'll keep it short. My name is Bill Bathurst. I'm the Deputy Vice Mayor of Delray Beach and current City Commissioner. First of all, I'd like to thank Greg and Sean for putting this forum on. Delray Beach Community Forum is doing a great job serving Delray. I really appreciate what you guys are doing. It's really up to the bar for how we are approaching social media in Delray and the things that we do. Also, I'd like to thank Cranes Beach House, which is where we are at the Tiki Bar. You notice that I got the memo about tiki attire. Greg, he's always pure business, but that's the guy you want to trust with your money right there. So my family has lived in Delray since the 1930s, for those of you that don't know me, and we've been serving Delray since that time. I am a proud graduate of Atlantic High School, a graduate of Palm Beach Junior, now State College, and the University of Florida. I went into a corporate career and then came back 20 plus years ago, and since then I've been serving the city and working with the city to make sure that we continue the success that we've had. I've been involved with the Visions 2000, Visions 2010 programs. I don't think any of my competitors were in any of those, or any of the other commissioners, so to speak. Previous to being on the commission, I spent 2 terms on the Historic Preservation Board. That's sort of part of planning and zoning, and it's the board where we deal with our historic districts. I'm very proud of our historic districts. We have 5 of them in Delray, and we're actually proposing a couple of more. Unfortunately, all of you watching will know that our historic train station, our 1927 Gustav Moss train station burned, I guess that's 2 days ago now. And we had some money set aside to start to renovate that and try to do something. You know, the fabric and charm of Delray is what I'm fighting for the most. People move here because they love Delray. They love the village feel. They love the way Delray looks, feels, and acts. And when I talk about a village, I talk about how we interact with each other, things just like this. You know, we're a very social community. We're very engaged. That's what a village does. So since being on the commission, I've tried to put that vision forth. I do have a strong vision for how I could see Delray continuing the good work that's been done by the people before us. You know, Delray is a success. It's a big success. You know, some people maybe say too much of a success, right? But that didn't happen by accident. Many of the people that I know who laid the groundwork for this success, they laid it through these visioning programs. They laid it through effective land development regulations. You know, 40 years ago, the DOT wanted to 4-lane Atlantic Avenue from 95 to the beach, and Delray said no. And that meant we were going to lose funding for Delray Beach's Atlantic Avenue from the DOT. But we said no. And so instead of like Atlantic Boulevard in Pompano, where you would have had to go into Hands or Vince Canning from behind, we instead doubled down, narrowed Atlantic Avenue, put lights and sidewalks. That wasn't always there. A lot of people think, oh, that's been there since the 20s or something. No, these are things we've created. These are things we've done to actively create Delray to be a success, and it's working, and we need to continue that vision and that hard work. So I'm hoping that I can do that. March 17th, vote for me, Bill Bathurst, and we'll go from there.
Good. So the format, as has been in the past 2 interviews, is we have 4 questions that were submitted by members of Delray Beach Community Forum.
Right.
I'm going to ask you them in order. Take, I wouldn't say as much time as you want.
Yeah, no,
I want to get out of here by the election.
Yeah, we'll keep them short.
But answer them.
And then we can talk about other stuff as well.
Absolutely. And then you'll have a closing statement as well. So the first question that was submitted is, what specific ideas do you have? What actions would you take to create a more opportunity for the students in Delray Beach schools?
So when you say opportunity, that can mean a lot of different things.
Sure.
But one of the things that I focused in on that, a lot of people don't realize that very unique to Delray Beach, we saw a need for this a while ago, and we created a education coordinator in town. What that education coordinator does is they actually work with the county schools. We don't have as much leverage with the schools as people may think we do, but of course we can be advocates for our town. And Janet Meeks, who's in that position, has done a fabulous job. But I think we could even expand the roles of that job. Currently, it reports under code enforcement to me, which to me doesn't make a lot of sense. It could maybe be under economic development. It could maybe be under another area. And, you know, it doesn't always get its due, because we should be looking at the recommendations from that, which are multiple. And because this is somebody whose job every day is to think about how can we expand the opportunities for Delray Beach students and take some of those recommendations and put them forth. We have had several things. I mentioned in my answer that my son, for example, graduated from Atlantic High School several years ago, and he graduated with an IBCC degree, which is a career concentration. So when he graduated, he had a certificate in his hand that was for CAD/CAM design. That's from Atlantic High School. I think he was the first kid to graduate with that. He immediately got a job that was $35 an hour, working for a place doing 3D renderings from a surveyor. So that's without a college degree. That is just right out of Atlantic High School. Now he's gone on to college now, but he can put those skills to use as he moves forward. But also tutoring and mentoring programs are really important, and programs, because a lot of people don't have access to the computers or the internet, Wi-Fi or whatever, and everything's done on the computer right now. So these are things, the EJS Center does a great job, places for people to work. So that's a short answer.
No, that's a good answer. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
So our second question, I guess the next two questions are going to have to do with economic development.
Right.
Economic development's been definitely a hot topic over the past couple of years with the departure of some of the staff, but also with the question of where the city is heading. So the first question that was given to us or asked of us, now that Vin Nolan, Joan Goodrich, and Elizabeth Burrows have left the Office of Economic Development, they're without a director and staff. In a city of 69,000 residents with a budget, I guess it's a little north of 140 million now, one could argue no one is steering the economic ship that's Delray. So what are your thoughts on the needs for leadership in the area of economic development, and what would you do to facilitate the process of filling these vacancies?
Yeah. Well, I will tell you, and Greg, you and I, we probably go back more than a decade of trying to bring tech entrepreneurs to Delray. I know you were active in that ecosystem. I was active in that ecosystem. But who could really have an effect on that is a strong economic development leader. The ones that we had did a great job. But once again, sort of like the education director, I think they were a little underappreciated. That director could have a dotted line responsibility directly to the city manager, or they could have, and some people think it should fall under the chamber. Not totally sure about that, but and funded by something else. Previously, our economic director was co-sponsored by the CRA and the city, so the salary was played half and half.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the right thing, because a man with two bosses or a woman with two bosses doesn't really know who they're reporting to. A comment was made about this at the city hall meeting a couple days ago. The mayor made a comment that said, if businesses want to come to Delray, they find us. That's not true. Commissioner Boylston made a comment, and I believe it's a great quote. He said, mediocre or average economic development directors take calls. Great economic development directors make calls. When a company comes to Palm Beach County to look as to where to relocate, the first stop is typically Kelly Smallridge at the Business Development Board in Palm Beach. She looks at where the opportunities are. She looks at who's networking with her. They set up a tour for these people. And guess what? I contact her and I talk to her fairly often. They take people to West Palm. They take them to Jupiter. They take them to Boca. They have no contact here. That economic development should be meeting with that BDB board person at least once a month, knowing who's looking at our county, and we could be looking at where these opportunities could be filled in Delray Beach. Very important. We can't take everybody. Boca has 20 to 30, 40 times the office space we have. We need to be focusing, and Joan Goodrich was focused on the Congress Avenue Task Force. That's where our growth of this type of thing can happen. We need to revitalize that plan. We need to have a person leading that ship, and those are the main things that I would focus on.
Good. So, in staying with economic development, what specific ideas do you have? What actions would you take to spur economic growth and diversity here in Delray Beach?
So by diversity, you mean a diverse ecosystem of types of businesses?
Well, it's been argued that Delray Beach, the primary industry is tourism,
Right.
And this
Yeah,
sort of thing,
yeah.
which is fine. I mean,
Right.
it's really thrust Delray into the national spotlight. I mean, most what do we get? This most fun small city in America.
Most small fun city?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, that's right. We've gotten a lot of awards and accolades over the years
Right.
for the efforts of everybody before us and everything we've all done together. But going forward, the only way to sustain an economy
Absolutely.
over the long haul is to diversify your economy. You can't be dependent on heavily on one particular area.
Right.
So I guess the question is really referring to what ideas would you have to increase the diversity.
So that's kind of there's several prongs to that, and yes, we need to improve our diversity of types of business. One of the things when we've done studies is almost all of our businesses are small businesses. They're 2 or 3 people, maybe a few more, and we need to increase the amount of places that they can operate. And so many people are operating out of their home now. It's crazy, with all types of different financial services and things like that. So those, we need to continue to attract those types of people because they come, buy properties, live downtown, and one of the things is when we're talking about economic development, and I've done quite a bit of studies on this. First of all, you need to shore up who you are. So who are you? Yeah, we are a hospitality industry. I would love to see in one of these locations, would have been a great thing for the old train station, or maybe a hospitality school. A sponsored by the hotels around here, for example, to say, so that Delray residents can learn how to, become an assistant general manager of a place like Crane's Beach House.
Sure.
So, they could start them off there, and then we could be a breeding ground for hospitality excellence, and people could go out of there. Like in our police department, we've spawned so many police chiefs because we have a great program, and they're all over the country now. So that's one side of it. The other side of it is about the diversity of economy. I'll go back to getting some office space in Delray, getting an office space that's articulated. We have a crazy rule right now about office space. I think if you build a new office building, it has to be 4,000 square feet. So we have something before us right now at planning and zoning that the guy's trying to break those offices into like 500, 600 square foot, multiple little offices. He's not allowed to do it currently. So we're building to a standard that was for 30 years ago. We wanted a, Bob's bumper manufacturer to come to Delray. That's not what's happening anymore. So we need to change that and look at these places where jobs can go, change the land development regulations, just like we've just done on Congress, to try to spur some of that economic growth. If we could execute the Congress Avenue Task Force plan, pick out the best parts of it, and for example, around where the Tri-Rail comes in, focus on building a transit-oriented development that had office and maybe some service and residential. People could commute to those jobs from Fort Lauderdale or West Palm, and it would bring more of those types of companies to Delray. So that's. One last thing I'll say too is, I go to Chattanooga quite a bit as well, and Chattanooga is a real interesting town. For those of you who follow people on the internet, you might know Gary Vaynerchuk. He's pretty popular. He just, he relocated his main company. It's in Chattanooga. A lot of people don't realize that because he's very much a New York type of person. Now, why did he do that? 2 reasons. One, they had the space for him. It's in the center of the country, which a lot of people can get to. But the number one reason he did it, Chattanooga has the fastest internet in the country. So installing high-speed internet for everybody, entrepreneurs cluster around high-speed internet because they need it to move the data that they're creating back and forth. High-tech entrepreneurs cluster around high-speed internet. We need to execute that program.
Good. I appreciate that. So the last question that we're going to be talking about today is a little bit different. It actually has not been brought up all that much in the previous forums and debates, but definitely pertinent to what's happening today in Delray. So there's a organization called Neighborhood Scout,
right?
And they do ratings. It's a service that tracks crime both on a regional level but also on a national level.
Right.
So they recently gave Delray Beach a safety ranking of 7% out of a possible 100 score, with 42.6 crimes per 1,000 residents, 5.9 violent crimes per 1,000 residents. So to you, how important is resident and visitor safety, and what are some of your ideas for improving safety in Delray Beach?
So, in Maslow's hierarchy, right? What's the most important thing? Food, safety, then food. So it is paramount. We need to be a safe place to live, and we've had issues with safety in the past, and the numbers pointed out that higher than our neighboring areas. Now, there's a couple of ways we can attack that. I've met with Chief Sims on this, and so proud of him, and Chief Goldman, who came before him, and Chief Sims. Over the last 10 years, we've been very focused on what we call community policing, and community policing has a long-term effect. This is when you see officers out in the neighborhood, and they're meeting with kids. Visibility. They're there. They're talking to them, and it's not just positioning, but it's realizing the population realizing that the police are not the bad guys, and they're focused in on giving the youth great opportunity to get involved with programs, and see what type of opportunities they can have, whether it's the police explorers and all that kind of stuff. But a lot of times there's this us and them in some communities about the police and us. Absolutely. We don't want that in Delray. Chief Goldman, Chief Sims now doing a great job of that. Now, Chief Sims in the past did have a little bit more of a targeted approach at stopping crime. There's a statistic that says half the crime happens at 5% of the addresses. So think about that. So the evidence suggests that targeting residential areas that have the higher crime, automatically concentrates efforts on repeat offending areas and significantly reduces crime more than most places. Some people think if you target an area, the crime just moves around the corner. Statistically, the reports have not shown that. Statistically, the reports show that if you stop the crime, you stop the crime, and it's not being outplaced. Because I just had so it was called diffusion of benefits, spreading that it's more likely that benefit spreads, and they call it diffusion of benefits. So I would keep up with the community policing, and I just wanted to make sure I read this quote right, because it's actually increased community policing efforts has a cumulative effort over time, and here we're talking about winning the hearts and minds of the people. The last thing I'll tell you is we do have a program on the books right now for a program called Shot Spotter. It's specifically to have to do with gunfire. We have a lot of random gunfire in Delray. This is a program that instantly, within a half a second, notifies the police as to the location of these firings. Because what happens very often, people report gunfire, the police show up, and nobody will tell them where it came from. So this takes that onus off the residents who maybe don't want to say something about a neighbor. And Shot Spotter, they're there very quickly, and if these things happen repeatedly, they know where it's coming from. And along with that, sometimes comes some surveillance if necessary of other ways. But the Shot Spotter, I think, is something that we're working on, and we hope will happen.
I appreciate that and your insight on the crime situation. So we're done with the portion of questions. So now you can do a closing statement, and I would just say this is a time where we ask the candidates just to be their genuine selves. You have an audience of thousands of Delray community members. What is it you would like them to know about your candidacy and why they should vote for you?
Well, like I said, my family, myself, we have a very long history of serving Delray. I have magnets and bumper stickers that say "Village by the Sea" and also shirts, and I really believe that. And I believe that a village is more than just the building. It's the people around it, and it's how we treat each other. And I want to continue that legacy on. I've also created a couple of pieces that talk about, particularly one of my opponents has tried to position me as I'm for large development in Delray. And I have this piece that I'll gladly send to anybody, and it's about me holding developers accountable. I think I've done more through the Historic Preservation Board and now at the Commission to hold developers accountable than anybody. Anytime we're dealing with development, we have to come to reasonable solutions that work with the land development regulations that we have now and affect the rights of that current property owner. But I've done things that a lot of people don't know about. For example, I'll tell you, when the IPIC deal happened, a lot of people were angry about that whole thing.
Sure.
I thought it was a bad RFP. I think the whole thing should have been redone. But a lot of people, once it went in, they said, okay, let's try to get behind it, and hopefully it's successful. Well, they went and sold the property, right? And then they benefited from that. Now, when we had the BH3 contract, which has not been executed yet, I specifically put a clause in that contract that if the BH3 contract, which is the 6, 7, 800 block, sells more than 51% of that project, they owe the city $4 million. And that's to protect the city from someone who's just going to flip the project. The previous commission didn't do anything like that with IPIC. These RFPs are hard. We need to make sure that they're properly done and properly executed. You can on this brochure, really one of the only developments that I've really been involved with myself is with the one we call Costin's Cottages at 114 North Bankers Row. It's just 2 small houses that were moved to Bankers Row, redeveloped, and they're beautiful. But I'd gladly go through this brochure with anybody who is somehow believing the rhetoric that I'm for larger development, which is totally not true. And these have been dropped in the mail as well. We also have, of course, the Village by the Sea t-shirts, which we'll show you some pictures of. But those are available. All you have to do is send us a picture of you wearing the shirt. But my vision and my strong vision for Delray is to keep as much of the village feel as we can. And I think that's what we all love. It's kind of the goose that lays the golden egg. And it's a special place, and it didn't get here by accident. And let's not have someone who's only been here once telling us how to run it.
Well, Bill, thank you for coming out this morning. I know you got a lot on your plate, a lot of campaign activities going on. So we thank you for taking 20 minutes out with us this morning.
Yeah, thank you.
And
Thank you, Greg.
Really
thank you so much, Greg. You're doing a great job.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.